Hi, this is Mike at Design Point Solutions. This is the second of a two-part video series I'm doing to show this helicopter, this little RC helicopter, take flight. And the first one, if you watched that, we took a look at some of the kinematic relationships that we can create in 3D via Composer. So for instance, I created a relationship here so that when we turn this main drive gear, the actual entire rotor assembly turns with it. So we can do some of those sort of things just to make our animations a little bit simpler to control. Now we're going to go in here and take a look at these gears themselves. And we actually want to make this little pinion on the motor drive our main drive gear. So that's what we're going to do next. So to do this, we are going to need to move this pinion independently of the main gear. There is nothing in Composer that's going to let us push on one and let that manipulate the other. You might be tempted to look at something like the Interactive Collision Detection Workshop or the Path Planning Workshop. In this case, neither of those are going to help us. Interactive Collision Detection is just to help us to see what collides with something else. And the path planning is to help us to determine a path if there was something like a screw that we wanted to move around in tight space without it hitting anything. That would be the purpose of that workshop. So in this case, what we're going to do is start out by just going ahead and giving a full rotation to this pinion. And we'll also go ahead and turn the motor shaft here as well. So we'll use our rotate tool. And we're just going to select the two of those. And you might be tempted at this point to go ahead and just grab the edge of the manipulator here and turn it like this, and it's showing us how far we're turning it. The problem with this is the furthest I could go would be 180 degrees, because as soon as I go past 180 degrees, I'm actually just going a shorter distance in the opposite direction. It doesn't give me the ability to go the whole way around. So let's just undo that. And we're going to come out here and put our time bar where we want the full rotation to finish, and there's a little trick that will help us do it all in one step. So again, I'm going to go up here to my rotate tool, select those two parts, but I'm going to use my Alt key to select a center of rotation. So I'll just hover around some edge of that shaft. And now when I turn this, notice over here in my properties it's showing me an angle. And what I can do is actually come up here and type in that angle of a full 360 degrees. And when I do that, you notice that it actually put 3 markers on my key track instead of just 1. And what it did is it recognized that I wanted to go the full 360 degrees, and therefore it put a marker at every 90-degree increment to get me out to my 360 degrees at 4 seconds. Now at this point we can see that our pinion and our main gear are actually starting in a colliding position with each other, and of course we don't want that. So the rule with Composer is, because we're showing things with a visual representation, the rule is that if it looks right, it's right. I'm not worried about getting this exactly perfect. I want to get it so that it looks really good. So right here at 0 seconds, this is where our pinion's going to start. So we'll go ahead and use our rotate tool and grab our main gear. I'll use the Alt key again to find an edge to work off of. And now I can just turn this to a position where it looks like nothing's colliding. That looks pretty good there. So now we've got a good starting position. Now we're ready to move our main drive gear. So the question here is, how far do I move it? Well, I know I want to bring my timeline out to 4 seconds. So we're at the position where the pinion has moved the full 360 degrees. How far do I move this main drive gear? There's a few ways I could figure that out. I could take some measurements and do some math. I could count teeth and try to pull at that number of teeth, but the way that I found was the simplest here was just to do a little bit of trial and error. So I ran this a couple of times to figure out the angle that worked pretty well for me. And so we're going to go ahead and put that angle in here. So we'll do a rotate. We'll choose that main drive gear. Again, I'm going to use my Alt to find the center axis here, center of rotation, and we'll drag this around. And here's where I could kind of try to count those teeth as I go. Well, that might get me pretty close as a first trial. But what I determined was that a negative 33.7 degree angle worked pretty well here. So we'll put that in. And now as we back up here, you can see that those teeth work pretty well and give me a pretty good result. If I rotate this around and take a close look at it from the top, I need to make sure that I turn off my camera play mode here so it doesn't change my view on me. But now as I drag this around, I can see those teeth are working pretty well together. So as you can see here, certain things we're able to use those kinematic relations for, and parent-child relationships to make parts move together. Other things we need to just kind of set up the best that we can to give the visual representation that we want. And this is an example of that scenario. Now I want this animation to be able to zoom out and show the parts fading in and the helicopter taking off and flying. So I'm going to need these gears to rotate for the sequence of more than just these 4 seconds. So in order to create that effect, what I need to do here is, because this pinion actually does go the whole way around, I can actually just copy the keys that I've got for it so it turns around and around. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that pinion, and I'm going to use my filter here so that I'm only showing the keys for that particular actor. And I'm just going to drag select around those keys, and I'll hold Control and move my line out and copy it. By moving my middle mouse wheel, I can make them zoom out more on the whole timeline so I can see more of the timeline at once. And we'll just drag this and copy it a few times to get out to 20 seconds. Now I can't copy the key, turn off that selection filter there, I can't copy this key for my main gear because it's not going the whole way around. So what I need to do now is go every 4 seconds and add that key once again. So we'll go back up here, do our rotate, negative 33.7. Okay, so now I've added each of those keys. If we go back to the beginning and play the animation, we should see it move nicely along, just as if that pinion really is moving the main drive gear. Now that I've gone ahead and brought all the geometry into view, we can see as we play this animation that we've got 2 issues. One, it's going really, really slow, and also the rotors are spinning backward. So let's see if we can fix those 2 problems. The first thing is we'll address the fact that it's going backward. So if I just box select my entire timeline here, I can right click and say that I want to invert the time selection. Causes a little hiccup here at the very beginning as I take a look at what we've got here. But once we get into this key, we can see that things start working properly. So we'll just go ahead and delete the keys that we have out here. And now I can box select the whole thing again. And we'll just drag it back to the beginning of the timeline. So that fixes one of our problems. Now the rotors are going in the right direction, however they're still moving very slowly. So the other thing that we can do is box select our keys once more, and I'm just going to click on the end of the black bar here and I can compress this whole timeline. And I'm actually going to take it the whole way down to say, let's zoom in here a little bit so I can see my 1 second mark, and we'll take it right down to 1 second. Alright, so now what was happening in 40 seconds is happening in 1, and we can see that that turns real nice. Now my animation keeps playing here because there used to be keys out there. The way I can fix that is coming up here to animate, and we'll say we want to delete unused keys. And now we've got just a 1 second animation. Now I can duplicate this as many times as I want here. So again, I'm going to box select. We'll zoom in on my time bar here so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to control drag this black bar. Make sure I line it up just right. And this way I can make this animation as long as I want it to be. And now I've gone ahead and finished off the animation, so we can finally hit play and watch the helicopter take flight here. We're going to zoom in and take a look at those gears that we worked with, and then it'll take off and move. So I didn't put a whole lot of time into the background or anything like that. We could do some things to make it look a little more realistic, but hopefully that gives you a few things that maybe you didn't know before and shows some of the capabilities of working with animations in Composer.